Hello, welcome to In the English Corner. This lesson today will be dealing with the importance of verbs in a sentence. Please keep in mind that every single sentence must have a subject and a verb. Some have more than one subject and more than one verb, and they must have this in order for them to be complete. Otherwise, they're called sentence fragments. So I would like to show you the different types of verbs and how to select verbs in sentences. There are different ways to find verbs in a sentence, and here are a few pointers to help you. The first one is to ask yourself what the sentence says about the subject. So once you have the subject of the sentence, say, what is the subject doing? What does it say about the subject of the sentence? The next pointer is if you put a noun or a pronoun would be I, you, he, she, they, it, or we. If you put one of those words in front of the verb and it makes sense, then it is a verb. For example, he jumped, he is a pronoun, the verb is jumped, or I bake. The next quick pointer is to remember that most verbs do show action, though no, they don't all, such as skip, work, drive. And the last point that I want to draw your attention to is the fact that verbs that are linking verbs will not show action, but they do give you further information about the subject of the sentence. For example, is and was. Let's look at these examples quickly. The first one, Susan works late every night. The subject is Susan, and your verb here is works. That's an action verb. The second one, Susan is the oldest child in her family. Susan is the subject in the second one, and the verb is is. Now is a linking verb. It doesn't show action, but it's called a linking verb because it's linking Susan with the information that she is the oldest one in the family, and this is why it becomes a linking verb. There are different types of verbs that I'd like to introduce you to, and you should be familiar with. The first type is called an action verb. Now this is the type of verb that expresses an action in a sentence. For example, he ran to the bus stop because he was late. Your subject is ran, that's the action. Or in this one, mother cooked all day and then she baked all evening. This sentence has two verbs. Cooked is one thing that mother did, one action, and the other is she baked. The next type of verb that you should be familiar with, they're called linking verbs. Linking verb is a verb that links the subject to words in the sentence that will describe the subject. Let's look at an example to clarify. Susan is a master chef. Susan is your subject. Is would be your verb. Now that is a non-action verb. There's no action in the verb is, but it's a linking verb because it's linking the fact that Susan is a master chef. So it's giving you more information about Susan. In the next example, the test seemed lengthy and difficult. Your verb here is seemed. The subject is test. And so this is a non-action verb. It's a linking verb because it's linking the fact that the test is lengthy and difficult. So it's giving you a little bit more information about the subject of the sentence. Keep in mind that most linking words are forms of the verb to be. They're parts of the verb to be. And here are some examples. Am, is, are, was, were, will be, have been, has been, had been, and will have been. Those are all called parts of the verb to be, and these are all linking words. And the more you use these verbs, you will just become more familiar with them and with the different terms. And here are a few other common linking verbs. The verb look, to appear, smell, taste, sound, become, seem, and feel. Those are other linking verbs. Let's look at a couple more examples to clarify. Betsy appeared embarrassed at the awards ceremony. Your subject is Betsy. Your verb is appeared. Now that's a linking verb because it's linking the subject Betsy to the rest of the sentence, which is telling you that she was very embarrassed at the awards ceremony. The second one, the room smells fresh and clean. The subject is room. Smells is the linking verb because it's linking the fact that the room is fresh and clean with the verb smell. The next one, Jim seems dissatisfied with his new job. Jim is the subject. The verb is seems. And again, it's linking the subject Jim to the fact that he's dissatisfied with his job. And the last one, I feel sick every time I have to give a speech. I would be the subject because it's all happening to I. Feel is the linking verb. And feel is linking the fact that I am sick when I have to give a speech. And then there's yet another type of verb, and that is main verb and helping verb. Keep in mind that verbs can be made up of more than one word. There isn't just one verb at times in a sentence. It can consist of a main verb and a helping verb as well. In this example, Betty is coming to the movies with me. Betty is the subject. Coming is the main verb, and is becomes the helping verb. The next one, my mother will be joining us at the meeting. Mother is the subject. Will be joining would be the full verb. Joining is the main verb. Will be is the helping verb. He should have studied harder. He is the subject. Studied is the main verb. The helping verbs are should and have. And this one, the book has been published in many languages. The book is the subject. And has been published is the full verb. Published is the main part of the verb, and then has and been are the helper verbs. So please keep these points in mind. The most frequently used helping verbs are forms of the verb to do, to be, and to have. These are the most common helping verbs. And here are some examples. These are the most common. Must, might, may, can, shall, will, could, should, and would. So I've taken the verb work and I've shown you all different ways that you can use helping verbs to explain what the full verb is. So if you were to take the verb work, you'd have works, working, and these are all helpers. Is working, was working, should work, may work, does work, will work. All helping verbs. So the main verb is working. Here are more helpers, should, have, and been, would have been working, will be working, had been, can, have, and has. Those are all helpers. And here, will have worked, would have been working, has been, had been, must have, having, should have been, and had. So these are all different examples of helping verbs to help the main verb working. Let's look at the helping verbs and the main verb in these sentences. The first one, he is working an extra 3 hours each day this week. The main verb is working, the helper is. Mary has been working late all month. The subject is Mary. The main verb is working, and the helper verbs are has and been. Bob and Gary will be working long hours during the Christmas season. Two subjects, Bob, Gary. The main verb is working, the helper is will be. In this example, in number 4, Lauren can work for an extra hour tonight. Lauren is the subject, work is the main verb, can is the helping verb. And in the last sentence, she should have been working harder on her English essay. She is the subject, main verb is working, and if you look in the chart, it shows you all the parts of the verb, should, have, and be. So it's important to understand that rule as well. And some other point here to consider, compound subjects and compound verbs. Also, a sentence can have more than one subject and it can have more than one verb, multiple verbs. Example, Susan washed and polished the floor. You've got 2 verbs, washed, polished. The boy fell in the park and scraped his knee. There are a couple of words in between the 2 verbs. He fell and he scraped, 2 verbs. My husband and I met in September, became engaged in December, and were married by the spring. You've got 2 subjects here, husband and I, and then 3 verbs. You met is one verb, engaged and became is the helper with the main verb, and were as a helper, married. So we have 3 verbs and 2 subjects in that sentence. So here are some other important rules to remember, 2 very important rules. 1. The verb of a sentence never ever begins with the word to. You must remember that. Example, Sarah wants to buy a new dress for the wedding. In this sentence, wants is the verb. Now you might think to buy, because buy is an action, is the main verb. The verb isn't that she's buying the dress, it's the fact that she wants to. So any verb that has the word to before is called an infinitive, and it's never the main verb. The next one, the newlyweds decided to go to Costa Rica for their honeymoon. To go, because of the word to, followed by a verb, never the main verb. The main verb is decided, because they decided. That's the decision that they made. That's one important rule, and here's one other one to remember, and that is words such as just, never, only, not, and always frequently appear close to the main verb or next to the verb, but they are not verbs. In fact, what they are, they're adverbs. Let's look. The boy did not recognize his mother in the old picture that he found. Boy is the subject. The main verb is recognize. The helper verb is did. So the full verb is did recognize. Not part of the verb. It's called an adverb. Next one, he will never ask his co-workers for any assistance with his work. Subject is he. You've got the verb ask and the helper verb will. You've got the word never. That becomes an adverb. It's not part of the subject. Mary is always visiting her grandmother on Sunday afternoons. The main verb is visiting. The helper verb is. Always is in between the two verbs, but it's an adverb. It's not part of the main verb. So as a quick review then, and to assist you in finding the verbs of a sentence, let's just review very quickly these pointers. Here's the sentence I'm providing you with. The boss and his employees did not meet for their monthly meeting in November. Keep these points in mind. The subject is who or what the sentence is about. If you look at this sentence, the sentence would be about boss and his employees. So there's two subjects in the sentence. The verb will tell you what the subject is doing. In this case, the boss and the employees, what are they doing? They did meet. Helper verb, main verb. Usually the subject of the sentence comes before the verb, which it did here. Employees and boss comes before did meet, unless it's a question. And sometimes if you start a sentence with a question or the words there or here, the subject might not come first. A complete verb is a main verb and all helping verbs. So the main verb is meet, the helping verb is did. By itself, a word ending in ing is never a main verb. To plus a verb is not the main verb, and we mentioned that earlier. So if you said he is going to wash his car, to wash would not be the main verb. It would be is going, would be the verb here. The words just, not, never, always, only appear near the verb, but they're not part of the main verb. So look at this example. They did not meet. That's not part of the verb. The subject to the verb of the sentence is never in a prepositional phrase, and a sentence can have more than one subject or more than one verb. In this example, it has two subjects, boss and employees. So I hope that you do find these rules helpful. Keep in mind, please, that you must have subject and a verb in a sentence in order for it to be complete. Kindly refer to my video on subjects if you're unaware of how to pick out subjects, because that goes hand in hand with picking out verbs. Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye-bye.